The people in your company really are the most valuable resource. Unfortunately, business owners unintentionally create low energy work environments that create unnecessary strife. So today, I'll show you how you can intentionally create a high energy work environment that's needed to grow your business. My name is Jeff Schuster with Mechanics and Mindset Business Coaching. I cover a variety of topics that benefit small business owners and entrepreneurs. And if this is you, I'd appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel below. There are 8 critical mechanical components of business, and there are 7 levels of core energy. I'm creating a series of videos called Business Mechanics and Mindset, and you can read about these topics in more detail in my book entitled Business Mechanics and Mindset: How Your Thoughts Create or Sabotage Your Business Success. Today's video is the 4th of this series entitled Core Energy People. But before I go too far, I've created another video that you may want to watch before you watch this one, and it's entitled What is Core Energy? It explains the 7 levels of core energy in detail that will be mentioned in this entire video series. And I've left links to my book and What is Core Energy video in the description below. So I left a management position in a Fortune 100 company to start my own business. Now, I had had 2 prior management positions. First, it was leading technicians, and the second was leading salespeople. And I decided that leading people was just not for me, so my business was as a lone wolf consultant. Now, I did partner with several others, but always as a 1099 contractor. Now, in year 3 of my business, I realized that I couldn't do it alone, so I hired my first employee. Now, to make a long story short, I ended up hiring several more employees after that to grow a 30-employee engineering and construction firm. Now, the punchline is that people are not the problem, but rather the solution. After I sold my firm and now coach several small business owners, most of the coaching topics revolve around people issues. Surprise! In my business coaching practice, I've discovered that there are 4 critical areas in leading people in any small business that you must get right. The first is your organization structure. What official leadership structure will work most efficiently at accomplishing your company's goals? The second is hiring. I mean, how to add the best employees and have them producing as quickly as possible. The third is workplace energy, which is going to be the big topic of today's video. And that's the culture that you want to foster as a company leader. And the 4th of these is leadership. It's how you delegate and train culture-affirming leaders. Now, in the previous videos in this series, I've illustrated how core energy interacts with each of these areas. But the topic of people is just too deep to do that in this short video. So instead, I want to talk about how you improve your people regardless of which level they may be at in your organization. So let's go through 5 energy level people and talk about how you can shift their level of energy up at least 1 level with each interaction. I'll show you what to do with an example of a restaurant employee. So let's get started. Let's first start with level 1. This is a victim, and a victim is an individual who constantly looks outside of themselves for the cause of the problems that they face. Now, outsiders often see these folks as negative, doom, and gloom people. If your employee is experiencing a victim mindset, it's helpful to acknowledge the legitimacy of the cause of their victim thinking. Now, this is not an endorsement of an untruth. It's finding the legitimate cause of their victimhood and then confirming it. And then you ask your employee to paint a picture of a more positive outcome. Then you have them define a path to achieve that outcome. So let's go to our restaurant example. So Vicky is a server at a small restaurant, and she's convinced that she's getting the customers who tip the least. The hostess, Sarah, must not like her. So Vicky comes to the restaurant manager's stand and complains, "I never get high tipping customers like the rest of the servers, and I'm tired of the way that Sarah is always giving me low tipping customers and others are making more money than me." Stan responds, "Vicky, Now, it's important that you have the opportunity to make just as much as the other servers. The fact that your tips are less than others is disappointing, and your disappointment is perfectly understandable. What can be done to ensure that you have the same opportunity as other servers? So Vicky replies, well, you can get rid of Sarah. Now, believe it or not, you have now just shifted Vicky up from level 1 to level 2. And now this may not feel like a positive direction, but it is from an energy perspective. Now let's move on up to level 2, which is conflict. Now, conflict mindset people, or the fighter as I call them, they find fault with anything that you say. They come off as defensive instead of collaborative. Now, if your employee is experiencing a conflict mindset, it's helpful to get on their side of the conflict, if only temporarily. Again, you're acknowledging and validating their position. Once they have felt that you're on their side, ask how they can imagine any positive intention of their opponent, and then ask them to reconcile the difference between the two options to obtain a mutually positive benefit. So let's get back to our restaurant example. So right now, Vicky has just asked that you fire Sarah, and Stan then decides to have a meeting with Sarah and Vicky to get to the bottom of Sarah's favoritism. Now Stan starts the meeting. Vicky, can you describe the challenge that you have with table assignments? And Vicky announces, Sarah, you always assign the good tables to your friends, and I get the shaft. Sarah had been coached beforehand to explain her system to assign tables. Otherwise, she could have reacted unfavorably. Sarah responds, Vicky, it would be unfair if I tried to judge incoming customers and then only give the best customers to my friends. And so I understand how that would be upsetting to you. I mean, I wouldn't like it myself. And Vicky then barked, okay, so what are you going to do about it? Sarah calmly replied, from here on out, I plan to use a system to assign tables based on zones in our restaurant. There are 3 zones, and you're in zone number 2. The first customer will go to zone number 1, the second customer will go to zone number 2, and the third customer will go to zone number 3, and so forth. That way, I'll ensure that I am not playing favorites. Vicky had calmed down. Okay, I guess that'll work. So now you've just shifted Vicky from level 2 to level 3, acceptance. I call acceptance mindset people survivors. Now, the survivor will be one of the most affable people in your company. They'll do what you tell them to do. Acceptance mind folks, though, are some of the toughest people to level up. The reason is that they're often comfortable where they are. To level up, your employee needs to understand the negative impacts of remaining complacent. And those negative consequences need to be personal. In other words, they must feel the pain of standing still. And once they feel this pain, they'll naturally want to find a more comfortable place. So let's get back to our example. Vicky had been working with the new system and hadn't been complaining. However, her tips were still substantially lower than the others. So Stan approached Vicky and asked, so how's the new table assignment system working out? Vicky shrugged, well, fine, I guess. Are you earning as much in tips as the other servers? Well, not really. I guess I'm just not as pretty as the others. Nothing I can do about that, right? Come on, I'm sure you can do better. What will it mean to you if you can earn as much as the other servers? Well, I suppose I'd earn an extra $200 per week. Now, what would you spend your extra earnings on? Well, I suppose I could afford a better daycare for my daughter. I tell you what, I'll pay you to watch the other servers to see what they do, and I'll bet that you can get some ideas to improve your tips. Vicky watched the other servers for a week, and she realized that they were super friendly to their customers. Now, she felt uncomfortable at first, but started going over the top with friendliness with her customers. And she was amazed that it actually paid off. Now, her tips started rising to the level of the other servers. All right, so now you have seen Vicky go from level 3 acceptance to level 4 compassion. So let's talk about level 4 compassion. I call these people lovers. So the lover is a people person who puts others before themselves. If your employee is thinking of others, they're really close to level 5. Their only challenge is that they may allow emotion to cloud their judgment or be so focused on the well-being of the people that they forget the well-being of your business. Now, in this case, it's important to illustrate the elements that may be missing in their assessment of this big picture. So be sure to communicate any missing element that will affect other people in your business on a personal level. Once a level 4 person understands how decisions impact all parties, they'll quickly shift up to level 5 win-win. Now let's go back to our restaurant example. So it was a year later, and all the servers in Stan's restaurant were doing well, serving their customers and getting great reviews. The only problem was that the kitchen staff was getting anxious because they hadn't got a raise in quite a while, and Stan's profits were thin as it was. So Stan decided that he needed to raise menu prices, but he thought maybe he should gather his staff together and explain the situation. So the first response came from Vicky. If we raise prices, won't that hurt our customers? Stan responded, well, what else can I do? Sarah spoke up, well, what if we start upselling desserts and drinks? Stan knew that his profit margin on desserts and drinks was higher than his meals. So Stan smiled, well, that's a good idea. And Vicky chimed in, well, won't our customer feel like we're selling to them? Stan responded, first, you're asking them a question about what they want, and the customer is going to feel like you're attentive to their needs. And if the check amount for your table goes up, you will likely get a bigger tip, and this will help the restaurant give raises to the kitchen staff. It's a win-win-win, right? So now Stan has moved his group up from level 4 to level 5. Now let's talk about level 5. The opportunist is constantly looking for ways to improve processes, products, services, and anything associated with their job. Now, if you want a self-starter who is self-motivated, an opportunist is the way to go. The one challenge that they have is focus. And so your best approach with a level 5 is to guide their high-level energy in the direction that will best serve your company and its customers. So let's now go back to our restaurant example. Stan had such great success with the previous meeting to figure out how to give his kitchen staff raises that he wanted to try the same approach with an idea to expand his restaurant. So Stan announced that there'd be a brainstorming session to come up with ideas on expanding the restaurant. He started the meeting. I want to expand the restaurant and I'd love to hear your ideas. Vicky announced, well, why not buy another restaurant? Sarah said, we could renovate and expand our current building. The cook Julio chimed in, we can start taking to-go orders. Jim, the dishwasher, announced, what if we start a catering business? Stan was overwhelmed with all the ideas. I mean, was he supposed to analyze all these ideas? He decided to hire a business coach to help him come up with the best idea. So Stan's business coach told him that he could have the same brainstorming session, but then ask his staff to weigh each idea with a set of criteria that he selects. The idea with the greatest score would be the singular direction they'd take. So Stan followed his coach's advice. It turned out that the to-go order idea was the easiest to implement and would make the biggest near-term impact on the success of Stan's restaurant. So we skipped some of the topics of the organization structure, the hiring. We focused primarily on workplace energy, and we also skipped leadership. However, I wanted to show you how to apply core energy to live situations with your people. Now, once again, my name is Jeff Schuster with Mechanics and Mindset Business Coaching. If you'd like to learn more about how I coach my business owner clients, please visit my website at www.mmbizcoach.com. And I'd appreciate it if you'd like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel below. Until we meet again, I pray that God blesses you and your business.